How's everyone doing?
Good.
Yes. Let's give another minute here for folks to join. A couple more seconds here. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
I mean, on live stream. All right. Cool. All right. Without further ado, welcome to Mantle's quarterly catch-up, a roundtable style series hosted once a quarter with senior leadership and stakeholders across our innovation pillars, where we talk about our previous progress, share industry insights, what's upcoming, and explore what is exciting and everything in between. So today, we just shared our letter to token holders for Q2, and we'll talk a bit about what happened in Q1 and what's upcoming for Q2 across the 3 innovation pillars. So let's take a step back. Over the last 6+ months, we've embarked on a new chapter as Mantle. In our last letter to token holders at the end of last year, we shared with you that we are adding a couple more business lines or pillars. And now we get to share those updates with you. In essence, our new chapter and where we're going is we're becoming the banking chain and bringing financial services off-chain, on-chain through one seamless experience. And today we'll get to share how all of our innovation pillars work together to embolden that experience. So these essentially are important steps to enabling crypto access for everyone. Now, we believe that we are in a very privileged position through our resources, network, community-owned treasury, to build the products that we want to use, to build the products that we believe are missing in the ecosystem, and the products that have real-world use cases. So that's our mission. Our mission is to actively build and connect products that create value for token holders and beyond. So without further ado, I am going to walk over today's agenda. So it's a roundtable style discussion split into 3 parts. The first, we'll talk about our existing pillars. So that is mETH, Mantle Network, and Function BTC. Second, we'll talk about new innovation pillar updates. That will include MantleX, Mantle Index Fund, as well as Mantle Banking. In the middle, we will have a POAP, so be sure to tune in, scan the QR code, collect a collectible. And then lastly, we'll have a rapid fire section where we get to share some fun takeaways and insights, opinions from our senior leadership here. All right, so let me get to quick introductions on everyone here. If you can see, Brian, raise your hand. All right, so Brian previously led BD ecosystem at Polygon, and he's bringing those best practices for go-to-market here with us. Tom, raise your hand. It's my twin brother. We're not AI, I swear. So he previously ran sales and managed WBTC over at BitGo, is now leading Function BTC. Sohan. All right, Sohan ran BD at Paradigm and Paradex, and was previously spent over a decade in TradFi. Jordy, in Solidity Capital, man needs no introduction. I think you guys all know him. Yashi, founding partner at Marana Ventures, and has been instrumental in getting a lot of the work around Mantle up and running. YZ currently leads institutional and retail products at Mantle, coming from a strong background building products previously. And Jess. So Jess was previously with Fireblocks and Chainlink, and now leads ecosystem expansion for mETH protocol. And myself, in a previous life, was a Web2 VC, now leading global strategy for Mantle, and have the privilege of working with this all-star team. So let's jump into it. All right, so first section, again, we're talking about our established innovation pillars. So Function, mETH, Mantle Network. Q1 wins and insights recap. Jess, Brian, Thomas, take us away. What were some Q1 wins and insights from your respective businesses?
I can jump in, maybe starting with a
a Trump joke. We win so much, everyone's going to get sick of winning. I feel like there's a Trump joke in every Twitter Spaces, so I wanted to lead with that. But all jokes aside, we spent a lot of Q1 really positioning ourselves as becoming the premier liquidity chain in Web3. So in so doing, needed to look deep down the protocol stack and make some necessary infrastructure improvements to achieve that mission. The two that really come to mind is EigenDA and Succinct. EigenDA, that partnership has been up and running for many years. They first appeared like a wild Pokemon in our governance forums back in 2022. It was more coordinated than that, actually. Shout out to Veer, who did a tremendous job getting them to contribute to our forums, working with them to stand up Mantle DA and then eventually migrate over to EigenDA, which makes us the largest roll-up to leverage their modular data availability in production. This is a great end-to-end partnership because mETH is involved as well. EigenDA is secured by over 160,000 mETH. So a really great example of how we go deep with partners and set up infrastructure to win and become liquidity chain in 2025. Also on the Succinct side of things, this one I hold near and dear because I spent a lot of time during the recruitment process of joining Mantle talking about Succinct. I was asked many times, day zero, what would you recommend we do from a product perspective? And migrating from an optimistic rollup to a ZK rollup by implementing SP1, which is their Ethereum light client verification tool, was something that I had spoken about quite a bit. Of course, serendipitously, this was happening behind the scenes, and we announced in Q1 that we moved to testnet with them. So a really great step forward in becoming a stage 1 rollup when we move to mainnet, probably in Q2, Q3 of this year. Also, other really interesting things further up the stack, touching the customer, touching the DApp level. As Tim had said earlier, we have POAPs here today. You can collect your POAP later in this spaces. Spent the larger part of the last 3 years trying to get the POAP team to release their product on other chains, namely Polygon. I had been there previously. So in seeing that product launch on Mantle at ETH Denver, that was an incredible win, gamifying the user experience, encouraging folks to really use the chain. And then finally, Petra's Boys campaign, releasing a Just a Boy open mint using Privy as the minting API. We had minted hundreds of thousands of NFTs back in, I believe that was February. So some really great stuff on the infrastructure side of things, some great stuff on the app side of things, really furthering our mission on becoming the liquidity chain in Web3.
Yeah, as liquidity chain, as I narrative, right? To have liquidity, we need assets on chain. And two of our premier products with strong TVL, both over a billion boasting, is mETH and FBTC. So Jess, give us the latest and greatest on mETH.
Yeah, I'd say for mETH in Q1, it was really a big step forward for mETH protocol in general, because what stood out to me was that we really came into our own as an independent protocol. So we've launched our own roadmap, product channels, and also started to build a stronger community identity. And on the product side, we've launched our CMETH Pixel Vault in February, which was a huge milestone for us as well. So it is designed for users who want exposure for staking rewards, but with more predictability. And in just a few weeks of time, we saw like over 27,000 CMEs deposited. And also in Q1, we've unlocked access to new venues like Bybit, where we already have like a very successful rounds of campaigns on Bybit Earn. But also at the same time, we have gotten our mETH and CMETH both as cross-margin collateral on Bybit for users that wanted to use them as collateral edge sets for any kind of trading activities. That means that for mETH and CMETH, these type of assets are no longer just passive yield products. They're actually accessible for active usable in trading, borrowing, and also structured strategies. And it's also a very strong example to show that for mETH and CMETH, we're not just living on DeFi, but also in CeFi, and also in efficiency really matters. And finally, just wanted to touch on the point that Brian earlier mentioned on the EigenDA stuff portion. So for mETH protocol now, we actually secured more than 170,000 mETH on EigenDA that supports on Mantle side's data availability layer, and also helping to strengthen Mantle's modular infrastructure. Yeah.
You mentioned a keyword that I really like, which is passive yield, right? Getting yield and getting money and earning while you sleep. So one of the biggest opportunities out there is this multi-trillion-dollar asset class called Bitcoin that's really just sitting there as a store of value. So whoever can unlock that yield from that store of value is like finding Dorado, right? So Thomas, tell us, what has been going on in your side of the world with Function BTC? How do we achieve this holy grail?
Yeah, the same question still applies. The same observation that we had when we first started out, which is, like you said, if BTC is the most valuable asset, then why is it one of the least used assets on chain, right? And in Q1, so I started about 2 months ago, and in Q1, it was a little bit more internally facing, hey, how do we get alignment internally on focusing on what's important versus what's not? And what's important to us is the primary KPI of how do we grow TVL? In Q1, we probably hit 3 or 4 different conferences in the circuit, and we asked pointed questions, mainly around where's the yield coming from? Is this sustainable? Is this scalable, right? Because institutions are not interested in deploying 10, 50, 100 BTC. We're talking about 500, 1,000, 3,000 BTC. So those are the questions that we had going into the quarter. The headwinds are very much poignant, especially with the Trump administration and the tariffs. So it's affecting a lot of what's going on in the ecosystem around borrowing and lending rates of stables. And that's important to us because right now, the primary real use case of BTC or BTC derivative like FBTC is collateral for borrowing and lending. So with the markets down, it's kind of hard to find those type of opportunities at the moment. That said, we did have a couple of large wins in Q1 where we're mainly focusing on infrastructure, and we will continue to focus on that in Q2. So specifically, number one, we're able to get Galaxy onboarded. And Galaxy, for those who are not familiar, they're a very large Western institution. You can call them an asset manager, prime broker, venture firm. They do all of the above. And they're going to be one of our anchor investors and clients and merchants for FBTC going forward. The second large win that we have is getting supported on Bybit. So we have a Bybit Earn program where we're incentivizing the conversion of BTC to FBTC vis-a-vis Bybit. As of today, we're just shy of 15,000 BTC in TVL. Our goal, of course, is to 2x that by the end of Q2. So leading into Q2, the focus will be infra, expanding accessibility on the on-ramps, but also trying to find where pockets of yield may exist today. At the end, I'll wrap up with this. Tailwinds are still in our favor as institutions continue to adopt crypto. The first step will be adopting something that they're familiar with, which is inevitably going to be BTC. So, here's to Michael Saylor buying more BTC to his balance sheet.
Yeah, great. It's an endless financial instrument and machine there on Michael Saylor's part. And what I'm hearing a lot is also in the current market environment, it behooves both mETH and FBTC really focus more on building that infra, building the distribution rails, building that connectivity tissue for when the bull market comes back. You guys are well positioned. Brian, from your side as Mantle Network, how are you thinking about your Q2 priorities as it relates to mETH, FBTC, and beyond? What's on the roadmap?
Yeah, really focusing on building out the ecosystem, developing a very rigorous commercial arm and muscle to do deals, to bring products and experiences on chain that are outside of our first and second party reach. I think in crypto, it's kind of funny. You build these ecosystems that aren't necessarily very sticky because it's so competitive and so many chains and labs and protocols and foundations have so much capital to attract people into their ecosystem. So really offering added values and services and enablement to those who are building on our stack. Because there's so much risk in the ecosystem. And I think it really starts with taking a market map and seeing where we are lacking, where we need to beef up to build out these third-party apps and then properly incentivize. So one such deployment that is coming up that comes to mind, a very important one on the borrow lend side of things is Aave, of course. We're pacing towards the Aave deployment being sometime within the first and second week of April. So working closely with that team to stand up the protocol. And if you go to the Aave governance forums from January and February when this conversation was happening, you'll see that we have earmarked, I think it's about 16 million MNT. At that time, it was about 19 million US dollars. Today, a little bit less, to incentivize folks to actually provide assets that are approved as collateral on the Aave deployment. So really looking at infrastructure as well, make sure that the chain is the most seamless place for devs and users to both deploy and transact. We take the view that users should be able to bridge to Mantle from any chain using any asset and access deep liquidity there. And I think there's a really interesting intersection between blockchain and AI moving forward, whereby in a future where most transactions, if not the vast majority, upwards of 95% of transactions, are being done by AI, AI is not going to have any sort of emotion or predilection to use any particular chain. AI is going to use chains that have the most seamless liquidity and the easiest use and the cheapest fees, right? So making sure that the infrastructure stack is on par for a future where AI is doing the vast majority of the transactions. So that can be through chain abstraction tools like solver networks and all sorts of bridges, and making sure that we are set up properly for that future.
On that note, Brian, a lot of we'll bring more lending and opportunities and products to Mantle. We have mETH and FBTC. What are some applications on the ecosystem that you're excited about or want to attract further into the Mantle ecosystem to further that liquidity hub use case?
Yeah, we have a really great partnership right now with Bungee Exchange, which is built on the Socket protocol. It's basically a bridge aggregator that incentivizes folks to be able to access Mantle Network from any chain using any asset. So really focusing on that as a gamified journey and pushing that through marketing campaigns that we have and relating that back to our reward station and just making sure that it's gamified so that users feel like there's something fresh and new to do on chain every day. In thinking about some of the keystone dApps that have deployed on Mantle that we will continue to focus on and work with to further develop. In BD, often use the words land and expand to describe these relationships. So you land the deal, they deploy, and then you work together to expand and actually give users more of a reason to use these protocols. Looking at some folks who have been with us since or shortly after we launched the chain. So that's Merchant Mo, Agni, Init, FusionX, and some of the great DeFi protocols that have deployed with us. So yeah, the idea here is to really just give users a delightful experience on chain, gamify the experience, reward them for using the chain, and to fill the market gaps that we might have that our first and second party apps do not address, or third party apps that have already deployed do not address.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a very cohesive angle we're positioning, and it sounds like we are raising the bar in terms of who we want to work with in our ecosystem in a way such that when we do work with you, it is much more hands-on, much more supportive, with a lot of capital and resources behind our backs. On that note, Jess, what is upcoming for you in Q2? I remember last 6 months, we did a lot of work on mETH with respect to anything from the double dose and getting people incentivized to hold and stake mETH for more rewards. What can users look forward to in Q2?
Yeah, for sure. So heading to Q2, I think our focus is going to be heavily on expansion and utility. So we actually want to make mETH and also CmETH more accessible and more usable across as many ecosystems as possible. So there are actually three main key areas that we are currently working on right now. So the first area is going to be on cross-ecosystem expansion. So we are going to bring CmETH to new chains, for example, like the announcement that we just made this week, that to chains like HyperEVM and working with other DeFi native stacks to position our CmETH as one of the ETH collateral of choice. And the second area that we are working on right now is more on the CDeFi growth. So we are trying to expand not just on Bybit, but also in enabling more use cases like trade collateral and fixed income strategies on various different kind of venues, so that for institutions, it will be easier for them to access mETH and CmETH for more yield and also for more predictability ways to play around with the assets. And the third area that we're looking at right now is more on simplifying our users' access, regardless if it's on the ARM platform index fund, vault, or even just trying to participate our season 3 of Metamorphosis campaign. We're trying to make it easier to onboard more users and also to have more community members and also people that want to participate in our campaigns or just trying to stake their ETH in a more simple manner without much complexity. And just beyond the product work that we are building right now, we are also continuing to invest in education and also thought leadership video content to help and shape how people think about mETH and see mETH as a productive asset. I believe some of the people here have already saw and seen some of the videos that we posted recently, and we are trying to make the best efforts out of it to educate as many people as possible on like what are some of the fun stuff that you can play around with mETH and CMETH, and also in general, what are these type of assets and what are some of the ways that you can use it for.
Yeah, mETH for the institutions, mETH for the degens. We need to keep cooking. So also, I know that Metamorphosis Season 3 just launched. In previous seasons, users shared hundreds of millions of cooked tokens in rewards. What can they expect this season?
Yeah, I think one of the main key differences that for Metamorphosis Season 3, I would say it's one of our biggest campaigns so far, because for the first time, we are actually expanding it not just on the Ethereum L1s and also not just on Mantle. We are trying to include newer ecosystem, for example, like the one that I mentioned, Hyper EVM. And the goal here is very simple. We're trying to reward active users across that are using mETH and CMETH across the stack, whether if you're holding, you're using, or just providing liquidity. So for those that also kind of curious, how do you earn rewards for Metamorphosis Season 3? There are 3 ways. First, maybe you can just hold mETH and CMETH in your wallet, then you'll be automatically getting like Potter points over time. Second, maybe it's a bit more complex by trying to interact with different kind of integrated applications on Mantle, on Ethereum L1, or on this up and coming newer ecosystems. If you want to deposit into any of the vault using like lending protocols or just doing like staking, just leverage staking strategies across Mantle, Hyper EVM, or Ethereum L1. And the third one is more on the providing liquidity to LP pools that involves mETH and CMETH. So there are actually a lot of different kind of ways where you can participate in Season 3 and also earn points for future like Cook airdrop. I think that's definitely something that we're doing that's quite new by involving more newer and exciting ecosystem this time. And I believe a lot of the community members are quite excited about this as well.
Yeah, please, everyone, stay tuned and keep up to date with all the latest and greatest across each of our products. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Thomas. So to tie it all up, what we're hearing is last quarter was a lot focused on figuring out what has worked previously, what we need to do going forward, and tightening those strings. And now in this market environment, really Q2, the focus is on how do we enable better liquidity? How do we enable better access? And a lot of that is more commercial partnership deals, bringing the big players to our ecosystems, as well as on the infra side, land and expand our distribution network so that when the bull market cycle does come, right, we are there to benefit from it, and the tide lifts all boats. So really quickly, we're going to throw up the POAP here. It should be live now. There should be a little QR code. I'll give everyone, yep, there it is. So thank you everyone for attending. Your support and your attendance means a lot to us, especially as being our on the ground, in the trenches supporters in being evangelists for our mission, and together building the future of finance and Mantle towards an banking chain. But to really summarize this first piece and to shed a little light into what's upcoming is we talked about Mantle L2 network. You could think of it as any blockchain. It's a ledger, it's the account system. And then we recently talked about mETH and FBDC, which you can think of as the assets or liquidity layer that go on top of this account system. Now we want to unveil and share a bit more about the new products coming out, that is AI, retail banking, and the index fund, and how those fill up the rest of the stack and how altogether, when you look at this picture, you get a on-chain bank operating system. And that's what we are super excited about. So without further ado, I will jump straight into the second part of this session, which will be around a roundtable for new innovation pillars. Please, panelists, feel free to jump in and ask questions for each other as well. So I'm not the only one. It's not seemingly too much like a Q&A. But in terms of, yes, new innovation pillars, Mantle Banking, Mantle Index Fund 4, as well as MantleX. Similar structure. Let's first give a quick product update and progress on Q1, and then we'll talk about Q2 expectations and roadmap, how this all ties in together. So maybe to start, Sohan, do us the honors. MI4, Mission Impossible 4. Tell us, what is MI4?
Sure, yeah. So, we talked about the Mantle Index Fund, or the Enhanced Index Fund, as we called it last time. This is a very simple way for investors to get beta to crypto, right? So, it's a basket of 4, which is why it's called MI4, which is BTC, ETH, Sol, and dollar stables, and we're going to weight them, with a market cap formula, and put a certain amount of dollars in. Right now, it's going to be about 15%. And the key component of this is that we want it to be like the index of choice for people to park their money and get some exposure to crypto, right? So like if you're like somebody who doesn't know crypto extremely well, right? What are your problems, right? You don't know what tokens to pick, right? You don't know, you don't know about wallets. You don't know about like custody. You don't know how to deal with these things. So what you want is something which is very simple, right? You want to park your money there, and it's uncontroversial in terms of, exposure to, to beta, like to the market going up. Right. So that was a vision of what we wanted, and really we are targeting anyone who wants to park money and get exposure to crypto. But the key thing for us is that we are going to stake, right? So whenever people put money, BTC, like ETF, ETH ETF, like there is just no like if you're not staking, you're wasting yield, right? And especially when you have big people coming in, like real money in traditional finance, like these are people who, to them, 3-4% a year, that's not money they're giving away, right? Like that's money they wanna be earning, right? And so that's what we offer. So our index fund, we will be staking all the the assets which can be staked. So we're staking ETH to mETH, Sol to BB Sol, and USD. We're going to choose SUSDE. And we may change the components around, but right now that is yielding close to 3%. And this is, to me, a very simple way, like for us to offer a product which gives yield and gives you exposure to crypto. The main thing which I wanted to let you know is that we are launching in the next 2 weeks. So this will be live, and the important thing even more is that this will be like a traditional finance wrapper, so people can go buy it like the same way they buy funds in traditional finance, but in addition to that, we'll have it tokenized, right? So we're working with a very well-known firm, Securitize. They're very closely aligned with they've tokenized the BlackRock Spittle Fund, and we are going to be tokenizing our index fund, which hopefully becomes the de facto standard for exposure to crypto, and then we're going to tokenize it. And you'll be able to sign up to Securitize, and you'll be able to purchase this asset in tokenized form, or you can go through the normal subscription route and buy it in the traditional manner. And that's the revelation, I guess. Q1 and Q2.
Yeah, so I really want to underscore the importance of MI4 and what exactly this is. This is a new financial primitive. And what I mean by that is the whole narrative today around RWAs is let's move TradFi products on chain, but nobody's going to buy your 7% yielding basket of real estate in the Midwest US. That doesn't make sense, right? People today have access to Bitcoin ETF, ETH ETF, but nothing that combines the majors and gives you income on top in a set it and forget it way. That's the true innovation we're doing here. We are essentially building the S&P 500 on chain. Imagine if you can invest in S&P 500 and all the dividends get paid to you. That is the equivalent of what we're building here. And to someone's point, when we can tokenize that, that can be used as collateral elsewhere in the ecosystem. So the whole idea is we are not just building products, we're also inventing new financial primitives and bootstrapping and launching it with real capital behind it. I want to get both Jordy and Yashi's feedback here from both a venture investor's perspective as well as market maker's perspective. What are your thoughts on such a product? What is exciting about Mantle Index 4 for you?
I mean, from my perspective, we always hear people asking, what do I buy? Especially like family offices, people that are interested in crypto, but they don't really are not very degen, right? They just want to get exposure. So you get the best stuff and you get it staking and getting yields. And it's sort of like a one product that just solves a need, I think, for that entry step where, you don't want to spend your whole day on crypto, but you want to invest. And I think it's really well designed for that.
Yeah, for me, I think it's easy, right? It's simple. Just it's a product I want to use, because like every time rebalancing, it's difficult since everyone is busy. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is like safe, right? Like every time you need to connect your ledger and make sure like you need to read all the code and do so many verifications. I mean, the current experience is not that great yet. So having a few professional custodian to manage for you, and then in a safe way, just like huge benefit and convenience for me already.
And I think what we're doing really well here in positioning is targeting the crypto curious TradFi institutions that have hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, because for them, they won't go into smart contracts. But if you package and structure in a traditional way, it looks like, it talks like, it walks like a duck. They get it. They understand it. It's much easier to get them on board with such a product. So that's one we're launching soon, as Sohan said, and we are super, super excited about it. I want to jump to our next product that we are launching.
I don't know if I mentioned actually. Yeah, so we are going to be backing this, with a significant amount of capital, from Mantle Treasury. So we put the governance proposal through a couple of months ago. We have up to 400 million committed to this, and that just shows you the depth of our belief in this product. And second thing is like, if you're scrolling through funds. If you're somebody who's new to crypto, wants some exposure, there's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, and then there's someone with 400 million. I think that already is a king-making thing to have something with a significant amount of capital. So that's just something I wanted to add.
And that is the kind of cadence that we are exercising internally, right? We see the opportunity, we build it, and we back it. So one of the products we're working on now is this retail or a Mantle banking product that we're super excited about. And I will have YZ jump in and share a bit more about what exactly are we trying to build with Mantle banking? Why is it so exciting? Why is it so revolutionary?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is this section of the conversation. We're talking about AI, we're talking about MI4, and then now we're talking about banking. Previously, we talked about all the different assets that we have on Mantle Network. What is cool, I feel, is that this kind of like retail banking platform not only does the typical savings and kind of like spending scenarios, but what it does is it really brings all this kind of like both the TradFi and the DeFi kind of experience all into one place. So I think from a kind of like who are we trying to reach out to, who are we trying to build this for perspective, really is thinking about anyone who now maybe just has crypto, not sure how they want to really get further into this process, or even because the belief here potentially, I think in the previous live stream in Q1, we talked about the future we believe in, where really a lot of the future is going to be on chain, right? So then we have to create a scenario where you can seamlessly blend between your traditional finance, where fiat rails exist, and also your crypto assets. So what this does essentially, this banking app or retail banking platform that we want to do is to allow you to spend, save, invest all in one place. And when we talk about that, break it down into two really key, I would say, feature here is firstly seamless onboarding user experience. I think crypto currently user experience wise is still not the best. And we want to think about if you really want to be able to spend it meaningfully and genuinely like the product, it has to feel almost seamless as you're used to in Web2, right? Traditionally. So self-custody is still going to be there because, still believing in that kind of like philosophy, but not having to deal with complexities of seed phrase, for example. And then this product allows you to get a bank account, a multi-currency debit card in like a few steps, right? I think that is what's cool about it. So you literally blend that onboarding process into a few clicks, you get it, you can start spending your crypto seamlessly in any merchants that accept MasterCard, right? So blurring this line now allows you to also then tap into everything we've discussed in this call. One is, for example, if you want to think about yield generation, you can potentially, access that kind of yield. Our partners from, let's say, Athena, that's also one, obviously one very exciting way. If you're a slightly more qualified investor, you can access MI4 or potentially other tokenized funds or products that we can offer in the future, right? So I think what we're trying to do here is really having, number one, Mantle Network as the baseline infrastructure that supports all this transactions. So you can imagine all the payments happening here, users having their bank account that then settles on Mantle Network, multi-currency card that you can really use on a day-to-day travel basis or whatever it is, on and off ramp for Euro, USD, potentially soon. And then having that kind of mobile app, web app kind of experience all in one place to allow you to access crypto, fiat, Mantle, anywhere, anytime. So I think that's kind of like the thing that we're building towards, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and in that regard, Yashi, I'd love to get your thoughts as a venture investor. We've seen a lot of similar products, right? Whether it's just a MPC wallet plus a card, or it's a brokerage account and someone slaps in a crypto trading experience. What is unique here? Or what stands out here? What do you like? What else have you seen in the sector?
I think we started to talk about banking start like 3-4 months ago, but interestingly, like recent 2 months, feel like a lot of people have been talking about the banking payment and then RWA. I think because the industry has identified this is a gap that everyone wants to solve. Another reason is that I think a lot of people been building on infras because the early days, right, the capital market always been rewarding people building infra from the very early days. Like you just need a white paper and then you set the chains you want to build. And then this heavily leads into investor getting patient. We don't want the product delivery. A lot of times I even heard the investor talking about, let's talk about the thing, never deliver a product. Because once you deliver the product, the valuation will drop, right? Because like there's no imagination anymore. This is actually not very healthy, to be honest. And actually in this cycle, we start to see that more and more infra coming out, no applications. And at this moment, people start to realize, okay, fine, now we're looking for applications, looking for users. I think this is not unique, but I think Mantle is on the right direction. That is actually try to find the one most valuable thing for the whole ecosystem, which is user. It's like you are running a shopping mall, and then no one comes. Today you start to open a Starbucks, right? So once you open a Starbucks, and then you will benefit other stores, the camera store or the bookstore next, right? And then one day, eventually, the Hermes or the Chanel or the like other luxury brands finally come. So now I think people are trying to find the Starbucks. Every day you use your card for payment, it's like every day you get a coffee. So I find this is very valuable and interesting. But this also like brings a lot of challenge, right? So people saying they build a tech stack for payments or for high frequency, but are you actually able to support like payment type of use case? So this is a task for the Mantle team or the Mantle Network team. So I think the team is taking the challenge here. So to prove that, so we can actually have the Web2 like of experience, and it can actually have the product go to mainstream. So yeah, this is what I found interesting. One more thing I want to talk about is the settlement on blockchain. So this is also very valuable because every transaction is using blockchain as a ledger, which means like whenever you buy a coffee, you use Uber, you use Grab. Every transaction is it will be a transaction on Mantle Network, which means the more you spend, the more you use the card, the more you are contributing to the ecosystem. I find all this like makes a lot of sense for Mantle. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's really exciting here is, let me walk you through the user experience that we've envisioned and why this is so important. So today, a lot of folks are tackling the banking experience by just offering you a card so you can off-ramp, fine. But the fundamental problem is for a user, their worlds are still split in two. You have the receive my salary in TradFi bank account, and then I have my wallets in crypto, and this world doesn't talk to this world, right? We imagine a world where on a monthly basis, you receive your salary via fiat into a US dollar denominated account that can then be tokenized, and based on your risk profile, right? If you want to automatically have 10% of that yielding in Ethena, fine, that automatically allocated there. If you want to invest that into major exposures, you can invest in Mantle Index Fund 4. If you want to be more degen, you can put that into a wallet and move it off. But everything happens in one account that will also have a card that allows you to spend globally, right? So the world we're envisioning is seamless, transparent, borderless, everything all in one. And that's what gets us really excited. And what's even more exciting is the potential for AI to play a role in all this. So I'll hand it over to Jordy. What is the latest and greatest with MantleX?
Yeah, I mean, we've had an interesting Q1 where AI was the main narrative, and I think the specific categories in there were maybe not the most sustainable. So what MantleX is really trying to do is catch the next wave, when we're very sure there will be a next wave, like a second big interest of Web3 AI. And there's a few things that are evident now, and then there's things that we don't know that will play out. The things that are evident that are sustainable, one, obviously, content creation. So, marketing, engagement, education. It's very clear already, and we had all this Ghibli stuff. The entire internet melted with the ability of AI to create, images that are very like fun, entertaining, but also, have some meme or meaning. This is like a very clear sign. And so what we're looking to do now with MantleX is, first of all, like dog food these tools internally and use it for Mantle's own marketing, Mantle's own education, Mantle's own like community. And this is a way to like bring in kind of users into Mantle in this like very clear use case for AI, which is going to be showing up in our marketing, both for MantleX, but also like for all the Mantle products. I think the other one is, UX on DeFi, as we've described, sometimes is not the simplest for a lot of people. And even if you understand it and you're native like me, if I want to go to Pendle, like one of our apps, and you want to choose which USD you want to get yield on, or which Bitcoin you want to get yield on, there's so many different options, so many different farms, and you have to click there all day. I remember DeFi Maestro was clicking for days. You have to do like 5 small clips at a time and just keep doing it. So AI is going to take care of this. And we're already talking with some of the most talented teams that are really making this experience better. And we'll be looking to bring that both for, Mantle's own apps, but also we're happy to collaborate across like, the entire crypto space for like, DeFi UX basically. So these are like very evident. And then the third category is like the more like unknown things that might come up in the next 6 months, where new narratives will appear with AI. This technology is getting very, very strong. So we're looking to do collaborations with some of the strongest teams that are building. A lot of them have ties to Web2 AI, like these like big AI labs like Anthropic, and staying close there will really give us like visibility as things start to come up. And we'll be looking to share newsletters and share content on the MantleX Twitter to let the broader community also keep up with us as we are talking to these teams, and also keep up with the space, because I think Brian said earlier, but this is obviously like going to be like a very transformative technology for blockchain.
Yes, so not just moving DeFi to TradFi, but DeFi AI and blending with TradFi AI, right? And a lot of the goal really is to have AI abstract away all the complexities of DeFi and deliver simple benefit and experience to users. And again, we are building within our stack and our resources the products we want, but these are also usable across the broader ecosystem as well. We want these to be Legos that other folks can use and other folks can build and innovate on as well. So that's all very exciting. And I think one thing I forgot to mention is how does mETH and the likes of FBDC also factor into the big banking experience? Well, you can deposit mETH and FBDC and get a credit card or credit against your collateral, right? That's a future that we can move towards, and that's something we are actively exploring. So
let me interject and add my view too. So from my perspective, DeFi is getting more sophisticated and growing up, but the new investors that are coming in are getting less sophisticated, which is why a value proposition, whether it's a Mantle Bank or something that's user-friendly, where it's fintech in the front, you're used to it, like any other brokerage or banking app, great, easy. But it's DeFi in the back, right? And it's AI abstracting away all those complexities. I think that's the package, the value proposition. And one thing that has not been mentioned, it is evident here, but it hasn't been mentioned explicitly that I want to say is there is a cross-function synergistic unlock here across the Mantle units that you probably can't find anywhere else on other L2s, right? And I think that is the unfair advantage. What does that mean? Like, yeah, you go to CoinMarketCap, you see a bunch of chains with high market cap, but there's no apps and there's no TVL, and it's like a ghost town, like a supermarket with nothing happening. Okay, cool. Or you can find ones that have a high market cap with some apps, but TVL, but it's kind of tapped out, right? So what we have here, from my perspective, and again, I'm just the asset issuer part of the equation, I see there's a massive L2 with Mantle, right? There's a strong treasury, there's a very active community, and they're very real products, whether it's mETH or MI4 or with the bank or with the AI. But there's also this ecosystem of strong partnerships, right? So it's not just the Starbucks next to the shopping mall, but there is a 24-hour gym, right? Or there is a nail salon, what have you. And they're all kind of in this bustling ecosystem that Mantle has been able to cultivate. So yeah, that's what I find it most exciting is like, where can I find real utility for this FBTC token and bring the BTC liquidity? Mantle is an obvious place to start.
yeah, an easy analogy is for our supporters and friends in the East, it's like a WeChat super app. In our supporters and token holders in the West, it's akin to Apple, where it's a bit more verticalized and walled garden, as opposed to more Android, which is more horizontal. And I think what's exciting here is that the way we envision the innovation here is just like what Windows operating system did to unify the personal computing experience through a user interface, just like what Apple did with mobile apps, and the form factor was the iPhone, so you can experience the world on mobile. We're doing the same thing here with this crypto neobank product, right? All the fintech apps, all the TradFi products boil down to one simple user interface, one all-in-one account between fiat and crypto that the user can experience seamlessly their DeFi and TradFi finances. So that is the vision we are building. All this is outlined and more in our Q2 letter to token holders. Please give that a read. And yeah, let's open up the floor for any additional comments from our esteemed panelists and guests. And otherwise, we'll go into a quick take and rapid fire section. All right. So I think the question on everyone's mind, and we'd love to give feedback on folks here, is, are we actually in a bear cycle, or is the bull just taking a nap? Where are we? Will we see another bull-like environment near the end of this year? Maybe let's start with Yashi and Jordy, who is closer to the front lines on the markets.
Jordy, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying my default thesis is that the standard 4-year bull market, bear market isn't going to hold going forward. I think it's just going to have a little bit of like liquidity cycles. Obviously, right now, equities, everything is like a little bit consolidating, but I think by the end of the year, maybe Q3, it'll this tariff stuff and pressuring the rates will only last 3 to 6 months, and I'm optimistic. Every year for the last couple of years, it feels like September, October really starts to get really good. So I'm expecting we might have that again.
I don't really have a strong taste, or I don't really care about this, but in Chinese, right, there's a saying called the sky, the earth, and the people. I don't know whether you guys understand it. So the sky probably means the timing and opportunity, and then the earth means like the environment and the setup, right? I mean, the government has been opened up and been supportive, giving license to banks and the custodian. You have a lot of things to do. The sky, the timing is there, and then the people. I see here a very strong team. So no matter the good market, bad market, I mean, like we are in a good situation, and I believe like I'm pretty optimistic still. Yeah.
Great. Next question. Bitcoin dominance has dominated this cycle. Can ETH make it back up to 4K? Can we make ETH great again? Brian, Jess, give us your thoughts.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Looking at my bag, this strikes at my heart because I definitely hold way too much ETH, maybe, especially during tax season. That being said, I'm a big believer in ETH. I think ETH goes up from here. I think ETH approaches 4,000 and surpasses it in short order, personally. To Jordy's point, I think we're outside of those 4-year cycles. I used to say, until I see otherwise, I believe in these 4-year cycles. And I think I've seen otherwise now the last couple of months. So I think now I subscribe to Jordy's view on that. But yeah, I'm an ETH bull, so up.
Yeah, I agree with what Brian just mentioned. I think right now, yeah, honestly speaking, currently the sentiments for the markets are a bit low, but we do still believe that ETH has a very strong fundamentals, and there are definitely a lot of different kind of things gradually are picking up for the ETH narratives. Different kind of L2s are trying to do different unique use cases, and also there are more and more staking adoptions that's going up, like seeing how in the LST market, there are more institutional adoptions. World Liberty Finance has purchased a lot of STETH and also ETH holding. They're holding onto ETH. So I feel like there are a lot of good sentiments both on the general retail market and also institutional markets. And that's also exactly why I just wanted to touch on the earlier points that we've all mentioned, like how Mantle is very unique in terms of our positioning, because we do have BTC and mETH as like the asset issuers, Mantle Network as a very solid foundation, and we have banking, AI, and also the index fund, which is on top for distributions. So it's like a pyramid, and I believe usually for pyramid, it's one of the strongest structure whenever it comes to like turbulence. And I feel like we can ride with all the different kind of opportunities, and also we can survive turbulences. And in short, I think there are a lot of great opportunities in ETH, and I think it's something that will come true hopefully by this year. Yeah.
I want to add my perspective from the BTC side as well. You guys might think I'm a BTC maxi. I am not. I'm a picks and shovels maxi, right? So I think it really depends on how the value accrues to ETH. If we look at it from a first principles basis, it's limited by the number of developers who are actually building on top of it, right? And if you're a developer and you're coming into crypto, are you going to build on an ecosystem that has like Solidity language where you have tens of thousands of users, right? Or applications, or do you want to try something new? And I think from that perspective, a lot of people are still going to go into the ETH ecosystem, whether it's ETH or an L2 or a specific dApp. So as the surface area expands, that increases the opportunity for new primitives to be built, like what Mantle is doing. New, better infra allows for new, better apps to be built on top.
Yeah, I just want to remind one thing, right? Like now I think it's building MI4, which included Solana. So it doesn't matter if just the ETH, right? So it also rebalanced, right? If the ETH price goes down, the Solana will have the Solana portion will go up. So just invest in the index fund.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you need diversification.
And to that point, it's really about we're at this part of the S curve where to enable mass adoption, You need to solve for user experience. That's the gap. We need to make it intuitive. We need to make it easy, and we need to make it convenient, right? That's always been the trade-off between decentralization, privacy, and convenience. And I think we are now at this part of the cycle. And so, Sohan, YZ, having seen kind of these CD5 type products, do we think we're going to make a comeback with respect to building more convenient type products? And what does that mean in terms of trade-offs?
Maybe I'll go first. I think we have been on a spectrum of basically like the decentralization philosophy or ideology. I think at some point, as with everything, it tends to kind of like balance. And I think in this regard, of course, there are extreme ends of this conversation. You have the very extreme centralization, the other side of things, like super decentralized, self-custody, you know. We are, I think, together with like let's say account abstraction, we have a lot of this like new wallets solutions out there, like Privy, like Turnkey. They are kind of helping us bring us back to where the true balance is, in my opinion, from a user experience perspective. And that kind of also then opens up more possibility also in terms of how people interface with the technology in general, right? The space here is not just purely about the philosophy that I just mentioned. I think it's also about practicality. In the past cycles, I think we saw a lot of like, you know, just ideas and really just building infra, but then not thinking about what real use case you're going after, right? So today, I think what we just discussed in this whole 1 hour is basically thinking about the use cases that apply. And then with that needs to come with practicality, obviously. So all these things, I think that's kind of like the first concept or principle that we have in mind whenever we build anything, everything with Mantle.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, like to answer that, like actually, I'll go back to the previous question, like because I do think like the one thing that we have all the setup, we have the pyramid, whatever it is, but the external factors are just completely dominant, right? Like I mean, we're too focused on what Trump's going to do, what's macro is going to do, etc. But it is also somewhat asymmetric, I think, for our setup, where we're targeting like real world use case, because let's say this brinksmanship comes to an end, like we reach a like a solution on tariffs, the war in Ukraine reaches a solution. I think when you have this real user base, like it's way more asymmetric on the upside, right? Like versus the downside, right? Like because you got that floor, right? Like so, I think bullish or bearish crypto is one thing. Bullish or bearish our building is skewed bullish, I would say.
Amazing. So I think we're coming up at the end of our time here. I just want to thank everyone for their time and support. As MNT token holders, you are the stewards of the ecosystem, and we have the absolute privilege of working and helping you and helping us achieve that vision. Your involvement will help guide our feature set and phased rollout of our products. And more importantly, you're playing a pivotal role in helping shape on-chain finance and the evolution of Mantle into a banking chain, right? And the ultimate product we think that users get to experience, the TradFi and DeFi world, really is this crypto neobank all-in-one account. And so we want to exist in a world where when people ask you, or when you explain to your grandma what is Mantle, you show them an innovative bank account and that works for you. But if you peel back behind the layers and onions, it's a host of products that we built, our ecosystem partners have built, that's working in synchronicity for your hard-earned money and to grow that finance on chain. So thank you everyone for your time. Quick items, please read our Q2 letter, token holders. A lot of information is in there. Please follow each of the speakers and projects on Twitter. Give us a shout out. And this is the last chance to mint your POAP, so please scan the QR code. All right, thank you everyone. Till next time.